Hello, my name is Will Butler and I'm the Head of Military Records at the National Archives, and I'm going to briefly take you through the records we hold which relate to Army service during the Second World War. The records I'm about to talk about are a mixture of those which have been digitised and those which will have to be viewed in our reading rooms at Kew. Unlike for Army records relating to the First World War though, the majority for the Second World War have not yet been digitised. To begin with, I wanted to briefly talk about determining whether an individual you are researching was either an officer or a soldier. A soldier was often known as in the other ranks. This is important, especially for personnel records, because depending on whether someone was an officer or a soldier, the records are currently held in different places. Ideally, if you are researching an individual, it would also be useful to have to hand some information about them. Obviously, things like a name are crucial, but it may also be handy to know at least an approximate year of birth, possibly even a place of birth too. If you know that they were given a service number of some description, then that can certainly help narrow down your research, as would knowing, in the case of the Army, which regiment or branch of the service in which someone served. It's not essential to have all of this information. After all, some of it you may be trying to find out in the process of your research, but some additional details can certainly aid in your search. As you may be aware, the National Archives is currently in the process of receiving approximately 9.3 million service records previously held by the Ministry of Defence. This 6-year project involves the transfer of records for the Royal Navy, Royal Air Force, Army, and some overseas services, and the majority of them date from the Second World War, but also include those individuals who saw service during the First World War and who continued to serve in the Army after 1920. Navy and RAF records have not yet been transferred to us, and so applications still have to be made to the Ministry of Defence to access those, while the majority of the Army records are now at the National Archives. The first selection of these records are currently being digitised by Ancestry and will be available to access digitally in the near future, so please do keep an eye out for updates through our website and social media channels. A selection of these service records are also being gradually made available directly through our catalogue Discovery, and may be available to view in our reading rooms. These include records in the W0420 series, which are the service records of 56,000 individuals who served in the Corps of Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, and the W0421 series, which consists of 92,000 records relating to individuals who served in 12 smaller corps or units, such as the Royal Military Police, Royal Corps of Music, Intelligence Corps, Army Veterinary Corps, and the Non-Combatant Corps. Additionally, a few 100,000 records of individuals who served in the infantry between 1939 and 1963 are currently available in W0422 and W0423, while records relating to some women's services and nurses in East Africa during the Second World War can be found in W0427. These records are available to view in our reading rooms if the date of birth of an individual is 115 years before the date you are requesting it, mainly because these service records also include medical information, and the access conditions for them are displayed on our catalogue. Records being digitised by Ancestry will be available from 100 years from date of birth, as the medical information will not be made available online. Now, let's take a look at what you might find in one of these service records. It's possible to find a real mixture of different forms in these records. Most include an attestation form, like this one, but you will also often find a disciplinary record, information about an individual's discharge, as well as their service and casualty form. And this last form can provide some of the most useful information, as it might include any injury someone sustained, but also where they were posted at any given time, and in which units. It is then possible to use this information to take your research further, by using our collection of war diaries, for example, and I'll talk about finding those in more detail later. For more information on the records I've just mentioned, and where to go to apply for a service record, either one which has already been transferred to us and is not yet available on Discovery, or one which is still held by the Ministry of Defence, please take a look at our research guide to British Army soldiers in service after 1918. Officer service records for the period up to 1963 and including the Second World War are part of the transfer to us from the Ministry of Defence. However, these records have not yet been transferred to the National Archives. There are also other sets of records which specifically relate to an officer's service that you can find at the National Archives. In particular, we hold the Army lists, which actually cover the period from the late 18th century to the late 20th century on our open shelves at Kew, while a smaller selection covering the Second World War is available through Ancestry, and some have also been digitised by the National Library of Scotland. There are two kinds of lists, monthly and quarterly. The monthly Army list contains lists of officers by regiment and include details such as promotions and appointments, deaths with date and cause, and a regiment's location. While the quarterly lists include promotions with dates and also lists gallantry medals received. Elsewhere, registers for those who attended the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst are available through Sandhurst Archival Collection. Records of officers in the Indian Army are held at the British Library, and announcements of promotions are available through the London Gazette. There is a selection of records available from the National Archives relating to both officers and other ranks in the Army, which have been digitised and are available online, either directly through Discovery or from one of our commercial partners. Firstly, recommendations put forward for military honours or awards for personnel in the British or Dominion armies can be found in the WO373 series, and this series covers the period from 1935 until 1990. Each recommendation provides a sometimes detailed summary of the action or deed carried out by the person who earned the award and include a wide range of awards. This includes the Victoria Cross, George Cross, MBEs, OBEs and CBEs, Distinguished Service Orders and the Military Cross, the Indian Order of Merit given to members of the Indian Army, the Royal Red Cross for those in nursing services of the armed forces, the British Empire Medal, and those who are mentioned in dispatches, amongst others. This series can be searched on Discovery by a combination of name, rank, service number, unit, medal, and date, and the records themselves can be downloaded directly from our website. There may also be other records available for certain gallantry awards, such as in the Victoria Cross registers in WO98 and the Distinguished Service Order registers in WO390, while announcements were often made in the London Gazette. More information on these records is available from our British Military Gallantry Medals Research Guide. British Army casualty lists for the Second World War can also be found in the WO417 series and can be searched through Find My Past. These lists cover British Army officers, other ranks and nurses, and include details such as the individual's rank, service number, date that they became a casualty, the type of casualty, and sometimes give a unit or battalion number. Importantly, the term casualty in these records refers to anyone who was killed, wounded, missing, or taken as a prisoner of war. For prisoner of war records, we have an extensive collection of cards used for administrative purposes for prisoners held by the German authorities in WO416, and for those held by the Japanese authorities in WO345. We also have another film that takes you into greater detail on how to research prisoners of war records, so be sure to watch that for more guidance. Beyond personnel records, the National Archives also holds a vast array of operational records relating to the Second World War, which cover not only the planning of operations, but also their conduct, as well as the lessons drawn from them, including the official histories and narratives. Our records include those conducted by the British Army, but also include a selection of records relating to operations carried out by the Indian Army, Dominion forces which came under British command, such as the Canadian, Australian, New Zealand and South African forces, and also colonial troops and formations under British command. These records can be found in a wide range of record series and can quite often be searched by the name of the campaign or operation. For example, if you're searching for records relating to the planning and conduct of the D-Day landings in June 1944, then you might use the search term Overlord, its operational code name, in Discovery. You will find these kinds of records in a variety of places, including those records of the War Cabinet and the Prime Minister's Office, as well as the records of the various military headquarters and War Office directorates held at the National Archives. It is entirely possible that you are researching an individual and would like to know more about their war experience, for example, where they served and what they did. The best set of records for this, like for the First World War, are the unit war diaries, which give an insight into the day-to-day comings and goings of a unit. All units down to battalion level in the army were required to keep a daily record of events, and these diaries often contain additional information such as orders and lengthier summaries of operations. They rarely contain the names of individuals unless they were officers, but can provide an insight into someone's war service if you know that that person you are researching was present in a unit at a given time. And if you have access to a service record, this can help to confirm this. To search for an individual, you'll need to know in which specific unit they served, whether that be a battalion, company, or battery. When you have this information, there are a number of ways in which you might search our catalogue. You can search Discovery simply by using the name and number of a unit, restricting your results to records of the War Office, the WO series, where these records are held. You'll need to be aware that occasionally abbreviations are used, and it can be more effective to use cardinal rather than ordinal numbers, so 1, 2, and 3, rather than first, second, and third. Another way of using the catalogue to find specific diaries is, if you know which theatre of war in which a unit was serving, to browse the relevant series. Unlike First World War diaries, the majority of which are in the WO95 series, the Second World War war diaries are held across 19 different record series, split either by the theatre of war to which they refer or the type of service they relate to. So, for example, for those units which were part of the British Expeditionary Force in 1939 and 1940, their diaries can be found in the WO167 series, while those which took part in the D-Day landings and after can be found in the Northwest Europe series in WO171. The vast majority of this large collection has not been digitised and can be viewed in our reading rooms. However, a small selection of war diaries from the WO169 series, which covers those frontline units which fought during the Second Battle of El Alamein in October and November 1942, have been digitised and are available through Ancestry. This is a diary for the 1st Battalion East Surrey Regiment, which found itself in France and then the retreat to Dunkirk when Allied forces were pushed back by German forces in May and June 1940. It contains a variety of information including where the unit was, what it was doing to try and halt their retreat, and also includes other interesting documents such as orders from High Command and casualty lists. There are a number of other records which are available in other archives and libraries which might be used to help search records held here at the National Archives. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission, for example, holds an online database of men and women killed during both World Wars. This is name searchable and can provide useful additional information not initially available from the National Archives. Entries often contain information about an individual, so the date of their death. Sometimes you can get an address, and you sometimes get names of spouses and parents as well. This information can quite often provide you with help when searching records at the National Archives. Additionally, soldiers' effects ledgers from the National Army Museum can be searched on Ancestry by name or regiment, and the ledgers contain a name, regimental number, a date and sometimes place of death, and next of kin information. Absent voters lists from 1939, held at the British Library, can also be searched on Ancestry or Find My Past. It may also be possible to contact the Ministry of Defence Medal Office for records of campaign medals if you meet the eligibility criteria. A link to the relevant page can be found in our British Army Soldiers in Service after 1918 research guide. That concludes this brief summary of Second World War Army records. Hopefully, we've been able to provide you with some guidance to help in your research on this topic. There may, of course, be other records which may be of interest to you which we haven't covered here. Remember that we have an array of research guides available on our website which go through some of those additional records, whilst also providing information about how to search for the records we have spoken about today. Thank you and good luck with your research.